I love talking about fun RuneScape trivia and showcasing interesting facts about this game that I think everyone should know. And since there are so many new players joining Oldschool RuneScape, I'm instead gonna do a beginner version of RuneScape fun facts in this video. Let's start with my personal favorite. There's an alternative method to gaining more marks of grace than just aimlessly doing a Nefi's rooftop course. With the release of Varlamore, you can actually do both the rooftop and the worm course at the same time to gain about 25% more marks per hour. If you want the fastest way to get your graceful outfit or just an extra way to get Amelize packs or termites, this is what you do. First of all, run your favorite rooftop course or the ones you have access to. Let's say a big Sears village. I run the rooftop until I see a mark of grace. This now starts a 3-minute cooldown timer where no other marks can spawn on this course. And what it allows me to do is use another agility course meanwhile. After I get my marks of grace, I use the Civitas Illas Fortis teleport. I take a Quetes out of the worm course, do 1 or 2 laps depending on how much time I have left, and there's a high chance that my character picks up any termites during the agility lap, and these termites can later be traded for extra marks of grace. The idea is that you're losing a little bit of experience, but you gain a lot more marks in return. On top of that, you also break up the monotone part of agility of just, running around in circles. 1 hour at Sears rooftop plus worm course got me 25 marks of grace and around 45,000 agility experience with the Kandarin Hard Diary. The way you turn termites into marks of grace is by buying the Amelize packs at the worm course with the termites, then going to Grace and selling those same Amelize back to her. You get 8 marks of grace for 1 back, and bada bim bada boom, you now have the fastest way to get a graceful outfit. As someone who has multiple sets of graceful, getting over 25 marks per hour makes this grind a lot faster. Whether you want to unlock cosmetics from the worm store, get more Amelize packs for stamina potions, or unlock all those multiple variations of graceful, this is the way to do it. Also, on top of getting everything I mentioned before, I ended up getting about 2000 prayer experience from bone shards and 4000 magic experience from teleports. It's nothing much, but just another small side benefit to have. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Blighted food. Did you know that you can eat a blighted anglerfish at the Castle Wars lobby? You don't have to go to the wilderness to get that sweet overhill from the fish. Currently, at the time of making this video, blighted anglerfish are 165 GP, and it's a really cheap way to prepare before doing any PvM encounters. The way I like to do it, and this is mental by the way, I'm taking this too far, but bear with me here. I use my house tab. I spec with the ancient mace to get 125 prayer points, restore my stats at the pool. Right next to it is the jewelry box that takes me to Castle Wars, and then I can pre-pot here with a blighted anglerfish plus super combat. Before I start my next PvM trip, I have 120 plus prayer, 120 plus health, and a super combat potion running right now. It's nothing massive, but it does add up over time, especially if you're doing tons of PvM trips and constantly banking. All the blighted supplies work here. So for example, if you don't have a restoration pool in your house, the blighted super restore costs about 600 GP per dose, and if you're lazy like me, you can use that to restore your prayer points. These also work in the same way at Ferox Enclave, so if you have some leftover blighted supplies or need cheap alternatives to restore your stats, you can do them at these lobbies. If you want to go really cheap, you can go to Ferox Enclave with Ring of Dwelling, use the pool to restore your stats, and then use a blighted anglerfish to get that overheal. It's like the poor man's version of the Elite Desert Diary reward. Cheap and effective combo. And since we're already on the topic of teleporting to Ferox Enclave, I want to quickly mention this ring that could be very useful to certain accounts if you have some leftover jades. Ring of Returning. Not many players use this, but it has amazing teleports if used correctly. It has one purpose: teleport your character to your spawn location. As it so happens, there are so many of them and each one has their own purpose. Let's start with the simple one. Since everyone begins with Lumbridge spawn, the ring has 5 charges, which means you get 5 Lumbridge teleports that end up being much cheaper than any other option. Also, it doesn't take up inventory space with runes. Same goes for Valador spawn, Camelot spawn, Ardoin spawn. You can swap them out pretty early on into your account and get free teleports to those locations. But let's say you want to get fast access to Kurend Slayer dungeon. After you complete Kingdom Divided, you can set your spawn point to Kurend Castle, and this ring can teleport you right at the front entrance. Maybe you want a fast access to Prifddinas. You can set your spawn point there and it teleports you right in the middle of the city where you have access to everything in Briftinus. If you manage to get to wave 5 in Colosseum, you can set your spawn point in Civitas Illa Fortis, which by the way goes really well with the previous thing where I talked about using the worm cores for Marks of Grace. If you have 5 million GP, you can set your spawn point to Edgeville or Ferox Enclave and use this ring as well. It has a lot of uses, and considering how cheap it is not only to buy but also to make it yourself, it could be an alternative option to get a certain type of teleport. And since we're on the topic of rings, I wanna mention another one. I talked about it briefly in my previous video, but there is a new best early game hunter training method. It used to be that you block any hunter rumor task that required Noose Wand because they just took so long to finish. But this has changed since the Pursuit Ring update last year. It used to be that you had a 25% chance to activate Ring of Pursuit once you start tracking a Kebbit. Jagex buffed this when Hunter skill came out and made it 100%. That means every single time you start tracking the Kebbits while you have this ring equipped, it automatically reveals the entire track and you can just go from starting point to end point and keep gathering loot and experience. At level 49 Hunter, you can get upwards of 125,000 experience an hour doing this method because a single Kebbit that you're guaranteed to catch gives 349 Hunter experience. The ring is much faster than the Runelight plugin for Kebbit hunting. That's how good it is. If you have this, you can also bring a Bone Crusher and a Chisel with you. The Bone Crusher gives you small amounts of passive prayer experience, and the Chisel can be used to turn Kebbit spikes into bolts, which later can be sold because they are like 50 GP each. This used to be a task that you block on your Hunter Rumor list, but with this ring I genuinely recommend doing it. At around level 50 to 60 Hunter, this is one of the fastest training methods in the game, and it also gives you a nice bit of extra money while completing the task. Also, side note, if you have the Hunter's kit that you got from the rumors, you can store all your rings inside that so it doesn't take up inventory space. And since we're already on the topic of early game training methods, let's move over to combat. Last year, Jagex added this new combat feature called Flat Armor, and some of the creatures in the game have really good boosted experience rates because of this. You see, if a monster has -2 flat armor, that means every successful hit does 2 more damage. This works really good with fast weapons. The more you hit, the more damage you deal. We've seen that a lot with Nagwas in Varlamore. People really enjoy training their melee combat here because all the Nagwas have -4 flat armor, meaning if you have a melee weapon that has 2 hit splats, you can get +8 extra damage per hit. But there's also something for range training, so I wanted to go test it out and see the results myself. Number 1, Shades in Catacombs have -3 flat armor, meaning every successful hit gives you +3 damage. This is even more amplified by Salve Amulet that gives you 20% boost on hit. There's also a safe spot to attack them, and this has no requirements, meaning you can literally come here at level 1 ranged if for some reason you still haven't trained it, pick a safe spot and you go to down. You likely get much better experience early on than you do anywhere else in the game just because of the -3 flat armor. But Shades have a problem, which is the 100 defensive stats, meaning if you have a low range level and not that much accuracy, you will see a lot of zeros no matter what. That being said, if you have like a mega budget setup with steel knives, d'hide armor and just a Salve Amulet without even using ranging potions, these are the kind of raids you can expect to get with this training method. Of course, adding offensive prayers and potions into the mix will increase your experience even more. The other method is doing Grimy Lizards at the Moons of Peril dungeon. They have a -2 flat armor, meaning once again, every successful hit gives you 2 extra damage. Unlike Shades with 100 defensive stats, these lizards have only 35, meaning you can start tackling them at very low levels. On top of that, since you can make food and potions inside the dungeon, that means you don't need to bring your own supplies. This essentially gives you limited use of protection prayers or Eagle Eye for that 15% boost in damage. The only thing you need to bring yourself is an anti-poison, but that shouldn't be a problem. Also, it's not a must, but when I tested this out, I brought a goading potion with me that gave me 6 minutes of aggro against all the Grimy Lizards. And while having enough prayer bonus that lasted me for 6 minutes, it was kind of a nice AFK training method. On top of that, I bring super anti-potions that also last for 6 minutes. So I set a timer for 6 minutes, pick up all the loot, sip another dose of goading potion, sip another dose of super anti-potion, and use the prayer potions I made inside the dungeon to restore my prayer, and then go AFK for another 6 minutes. class. The most interesting point is their drop table. Alongside dropping nature runes and medium clues, they have probably the highest chance of giving you teak and mahogany seeds in the game. You get so much farming experience by hunting these grimy lizards, and it definitely does add up over time. Also, this is just a side note, if you want to get free ranging experience with almost no effort, you can do melee scurries and use any type of knives on the little rats when they spawn. You get 60 experience a pop, since you usually get 2 sets of tiny rats per KC, that passively gives you 720 ranged experience per a single scurrious KC. The small rats always get one shot no matter what, so by bringing bronze knives, you can passively go from level 1 to 50 ranged by just training your melee up. And then at level 50 you can equip the bone shortbow, which gives you even more experience. This is essentially a zero time method that many efficient players use to get their early ranged levels. By the way, if you're still watching this video, I'm desperately trying to get to 40,000 subscribers before 2025 ends. So if this video helped you out in any way, or if you want to see more of this, please help me out, because I'd love to continue doing this series. That's all. Let's continue with fun trivia. Let me show you a thieving method that I briefly have mentioned before, but I think it deserves its own section in this video. Many players pickpocket NPCs like master farmers, RT knights, and so on. The negative side of that is you constantly taking damage, you constantly having to heal, and there's just a lot of downtime where you fail to pickpocket and have to sit and wait there doing nothing. If you have 75 thieving, I would highly recommend coming to Varlamore and instead training your thieving up at these gem stalls. First of all, you have a 100% chance to steal the gems here. You can never get caught unless you accidentally misclick in some way because of the safe spots. Secondly, they give uncut gems and you get hundreds of these per hour. You can either turn them into crafting experience or you can just sell them for profit. Jagex made a change last year where the thieving experience awarded for stealing gem stalls went from 160 to 408. Also, the downtime of gem stalls went from 100 seconds to 60. aka these stalls got a massive buff and they're actually worth doing now. The way I like to do it is, once again, go to Civitas Illas Fortis near the wealthy citizens. By going to one side of the gem stall, at the corner you can pickpocket the stall without any of the guards ever catching you. Then do the exact same thing on the other side. By staying at the corner, you will never get caught. Once you pickpocket both of them, you world hop and repeat this again. After 60 seconds, the stalls respawn and you can come back to your initial world. This gives you around 200,000 thieving experience per hour, while also getting about 150,000 GP in gems. Also, if you have a gem bag available, don't forget about that as well. Less spanking means more experience and gems per hour. And since we're already on the topic of thieving, if you're planning to do Rogue's Chest as your training method, bring a couple of Blighted ancient sacks with you for free experience during your downtime. After you pickpocket all 3 chests, there's a couple of seconds of doing nothing. You can use this time to ice barrage or ice burst the rogues that are all nicely stacked up. The ancient sacks don't really cost that much, plus you get extra from the rogue chest as a drop, so technically you should never run out. When I tested it out with Ice Barrage, I got a nice 75,000 magic experience per hour while not losing any time on thieving. Again, it's just a small little benefit to have. But okay, let's move away from training that skill and I want to give you some quick fire round tips. Let's do about 6 trivia points in 3 minutes or so. And we're starting with Forestry. If you have an early game account, one of the ways you can restore your run energy is through Forestry rations. You have about 1 in 3 chance to restore 20% of your run if you successfully chop down a tree while having Forestry rations in your backpack. This could be used as a way to alleviate early game run problems most players have. You got a tree, once it goes down, bam, 20% extra energy. Since there are tons of trees all around the map, it's just useful to have an axe and the Forestry rations with you. Whenever your run starts getting low, just chop a couple of trees and it goes back up to 100% real fast. The way to make Forestry rations is by using any type of leaves you get from woodcutting on any type of fish. You can also use them as an early game moneymaker, for example using cooked bass and willow leaves to make Forestry rations gives you about 500,000 GP an hour. Also, the oak leaves are a great way to make compost. Usually, if you do some forestry at the beginning of your account, you're gonna have a lot of leftover leaves that you might not use. So if you put them into a bin alongside with a compost potion and volcanic ash, you can get super compost pretty early on. Okay, let's briefly talk about the gemstone grab before I end this video. I see a lot of people using attack potions here. You don't have to do that. In fact, attack levels almost don't matter at gemstone grab at all. Only strength levels. For example, example, if you have 50 attack versus 99 attack, your accuracy is only 1% better. With 50 attack, you have 97% accuracy and 99 attack gives you 98% accuracy, since Gemstone Grab defense is already at level 1. That's why things like Dragon Battle Axe special attack are much better. You just get tons of strength boost with no downsides. Also, if you're looking to get some free strength boost, at one of the Gemstone Grab locations, there are Black Warlock spawns nearby. They act almost like a one-dose super strength potion and can be applied to nearby players with accept aid as well. So if you ran out of strength potions and need a quick buff, you can catch one of these Black Warlocks with Hunter to get a significant strength bonus. Okay, next up, you don't need to fix the fairy ring in Arceus anymore like you used to back in the day. If you did fix it a long time ago, you can speak to the NPC again and reclaim that 80,000 GP back that you spent here many years ago. If you're manually cleaning grimy herbs for that sweet Iron Man experience, you can use inventory tags in Runelight to see which ones you missed. Makes it easier to get a full inventory instead of missing a couple. If you can, try to use the cemetery teleport instead of burning amulet if you're doing bones at the Chaos altar. The burning amulet spot is oftentimes guarded by other PKers, and you're much likely to get caught teleporting that way. This one is so much safer and nobody camps the cemetery teleport spot, so you can easily get to the altar without being attacked. If you completed the Forsaken Tower quest, there is a really fast way to travel around Kurent. Just use Kurent's Woodland by using Rada's Blessing. There's a minecart right next to it that allows you to teleport to Farming Guild, Winterdot, Chambers of Serik, Tide Farm, and many other places in Seiya. It's a free way to get around Kurent without any other effort. A Rada's Blessing 1 can be obtained very early on. To make your iron mining a little bit more chill, you can line up 2 rocks in Ardi Monastery so one rock is behind the other from your point of view and your character is between them. Then you can use menu entry swap at the empty rock to walk here so you're not spamming the depleted iron ore. Since the first rock is now click through, the second rock immediately becomes left clickable. This means you don't have to change camera angles or move your mouse when mining any iron ore in the game, and it makes the grind a lot easier. And finally, before I send you off, there is an entire list of amazing old school RuneScape content creators on Wiki. So if you're struggling on what kind of YouTube videos you want to watch next, the Wiki guys have made a list of popular RuneScape YouTube series with hundreds of different names, and I will put that link in the description so you can choose what to watch next. But I thank you for watching this one. Please subscribe so I can pay rent next month. I love you all very much. Bye.